Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We are going to dive into getting truly linked in. And before we even jump into this session, it says part two, and I had a couple of people who DM'd me and was like, "Hey, what happened to part one?" So if you missed part one, that is totally fine. We are replaying these and doing these all the time. So part one was about your profile. Today is about your network. It doesn't matter whether you've seen it or not. You can still just jump right into this session because both of them actually just work in tandem. I'm just talking about two different things. The other thing that I want to talk about is that I have to give a disclaimer that this is about LinkedIn, but this is about actually using LinkedIn for your career development and how you can use it as a very specific development tool. So, in no means is it an advertisement or marketing. I'm definitely not getting paid by LinkedIn to do this. This is really this what I give to a lot of my coaching clients, and this is more of the high level. So, if you were to engage in coaching with me, we would go much deeper into this. We would talk very specifically about your experience and how you can leverage LinkedIn very directly. But this is kind of the general, and where this came from is I was like, okay, I do this all the time with so many of my clients. And I always was like, okay, if I can do this with all of my clients and they're always saying and asking the same questions, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, then this means this is something that I actually need to gift out to everyone else. So this is my gift to everyone out there. Welcome from the LinkedIn universe, the Facebook universe, the YouTube universe, where we are streaming on all three of those platforms. Welcome to today's session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Latrice Torres, and I am going to be your host today. And I say host, but I really like to refer to myself as a facilitator because that's actually what I am. And this is a part of the Leader Keys offerings that we have to bring to you that are completely free. We have all different types of offerings that you can find on our events page. But this is one of those that, again, I felt like it was really important to just put out into the universe. A little bit about Leader Keys. So again, my name is Latrice Torres, and I'm the CEO of Leader Keys. I'm also the principal consultant. Most of the time, if you engage with Leader Keys, you're going to engage with me. I will be your first point of contact, most likely. And I really like to be that first point of contact so that I can really understand what your needs are, whether you're contacting me as an individual, as a team leader, or representing your organization to bring something into your organization in terms of career development. So Leader Keys started in 2020. Between the team, there's 25 years of experience, more than 25 years of experience, actually. And it's within HR, talent management, leadership development, and even some DE&I work as well. We offer really bespoke career and leadership consulting, workshops, and speaking. We also really emphasize creating authentic and unapologetic leaders. And that is something that is so important to us. And the more you engage with Leader Keys, the more you're going to understand exactly what we mean by that concept. And I'm very excited to just continue to bring things into this platform, into other platforms, so that you all can continue learning, growing, and developing with us. And we want to be your partner in doing that. So again, disclaimer, not a paid LinkedIn marketing or advertising. This is about how to utilize LinkedIn for your career development. So why are we talking LinkedIn? I always have this slide so that we always have like a good grounding on why we're here. So let's take a look at this a little bit further. So when we talk about LinkedIn, we're doing it for a couple of different reasons. One, for both internal and external visibility. What I mean by that is a lot of the times we tend to think about LinkedIn almost in like a bubble of like very specific reasons. Some of us are using it just to stay on top of industry trends. Some of us are using it for networking. Some people are using it for their career development, for just professional development in general, connections. There's a lot of different reasons to use LinkedIn, but essentially it boils down to internal and external visibility. So who you are and how you appear to the world and the universe as a professional. right? So that's why we want to talk about that, because if that's what the charge is, then you should know how to do that really, really well and be aware of all the ways that this tool can help you with doing that, right? Always, always, always stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I cannot tell you how many times I engage with my career coaching clients. And one of the first things that they say to me is like, Latrice, I really got to get my LinkedIn profile together. Or even more concerning that I have is when I get a professional come to me and they do not have a LinkedIn profile. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to have one, but I'm saying if you're a professional, it's probably a really good idea that you do, right? So if you proactively look at it, engage with it, use it, utilize it in the ways that are really strategic for you, then you don't have to spend the time doing that. We can jump into your coaching and get going and focus more on making sure that your LinkedIn is like very strategically working for you rather than putting it together. Right. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. The other thing I'm going to say about that, and again, I like to talk to the audience when I say things like this, is I am always talking about making sure you are out shopping your greatness in the world at least every year and a half to 2 years. Now, I know a lot of people are like, wait, like, I'm just going to stay at my job and chill. And you know what? I totally respect that. But even if you plan on staying at your job, or even if you've been at your job for 5, 7, 12, 16, 19, 29 years, right? 29 years, you should be thinking about retirement. But you know what I'm saying? If you've been there for a long time, I honestly believe that you should always just be out shopping yourself. You need to know what your value is in the marketplace, because the thing you don't have control of is you don't always have control of whether or not you're going to have that job tomorrow. So if you don't have control of that, you need to have your stuff together just in case it becomes you with that also infamous pink slip, right? That's not the point where you want to get ready. You want to get ready before that, and you want to have practice at doing that. So if you are not marketing and shopping yourself around every year and a half to 2 years, and I say that amount is because that is actually the average shelf life of any given skill set or any even piece of knowledge that makes you relevant within your industry. In other words, that's how quick things change and how frequent you have to stay up on top of those changes. So if everything out in the world is changing that often, so don't you, right? So that's a really important thing for you to know. That's what I mean about stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Okay, the other thing, LinkedIn is in constant evolution. So there are times where I am coaching and I am telling someone, oh, did you know that LinkedIn can do this? And then they're like, I can't find that. And I can't tell you how often that happens. That's like every 6 months. So even for me, I have to every 6 months go in and I have to look and see what's new. What else can it do? How else can I leverage? What things are there? What things are no longer there? Right? Because it's a social media tool, and most social media tools leave it up to the users to figure out how to engage in it. So there aren't really LinkedIn or Facebook classes, right? We figure it out and we go with it. But if it's evolving again, then that means you have to evolve. You have to stay on top of it so that you know how you can really actively use it really, really well. So that's the other reason why, and we're going to talk about some of those things a little bit later. And then going back to kind of that internal and external visibility, and also staying ready so you don't have to get ready, you own this part. So you want to act accordingly. This is the part of your career that you own, right? You're driving it. This is all a part of your career management, which is all what Leader Keys is about, is empowering you to be really strategic about your career management, about the way that you engage with your employer, and about the way that your employer is engaging with you. Point blank, period. That's what it comes down to. Okay, so now that we know why we're here, let's get into a little bit into the nitty gritty. right? This presentation is going to be cut in essentially in half. I'm going to start off with some slides because I'm a curriculum designer and at the core me facilitator, so I got to have me some slides, right, just to keep me on point. But for the most part, I'll be talking. And what I expect for all of you to do is to engage with me as well. We will have a Q&A at the end, but by no means do you have to wait until the end. Please, please, please feel free to put your questions, thoughts, comments, controversy, slander if you want into, okay, maybe not the slander, you can keep the slander, but you want to put your questions into the comments so that I can see them. I'll be able to see them if they're posted into LinkedIn. I'll also be able to see them if they're posted into Facebook as well. And I believe I'm able to see most. If you have a public profile in YouTube, you will be able to post there and I'll be able to see them there as well. So go ahead and post your comments and your questions. And I like to address them as we go along. Right? So this slide is the slide I would love to not have, but I have to have it because sometimes I just got to put out a reminder. And I get it. Life and work tend to blend a lot, right? So sometimes we really get a little lost in where that blur is and where it is not. But I think that it's actually a much finer line than most people think. But it is important to remember that LinkedIn, it's primarily for professional networking. Right? That's what it is primarily for. And if that is the case, then that's the lens that you always want to go into in terms of engaging with LinkedIn. And I think a lot of the times we have that lens, but what we really are trying to focus on is how do we also leverage it in terms of building relationships and things like that, right? But we're building professional relationships. We're doing professional networking. And as long as your content and the way that you are engaging speaks to that and who you are as an entire professional, then I feel like it is appropriate. So it's always up to you on how you're going to engage in it. But at the end of the day, that's what it was there for. That's what LinkedIn was established for. It was established for professional networking. Even though I have people argue with me that it wasn't, it was, right? Ultimately, that's what it was there for. There's a couple of things and ways that I feel is the best way to engage in it. So this is all, again, just a personal opinion in terms of how LeaderKeys approaches the way that we advise our clients to engage with LinkedIn. One of the best ways that we feel to engage in is expanding your network, because this is the best way that you can actually achieve your career goals. I was actually just talking to a client just this morning and talking about having a career tribe, right? I talk about two concepts. I talk about in the You Are Your Brand session that I do. And if you haven't been in that, you definitely want to make sure that you jump into that session as well. But essentially, one of the things that I talk about in that session is I talk about having a professional board of directors. So I will refer to that a lot because some of the people inside of your network may very well need to sit on your professional board of directors as well. Two of them are sitting right here on this slide, a mentor and a sponsor. And a lot of the times people are a little confused on what those two things are, right? So I'm going to give you very quick and short definitions of the two of them to kind of help you with actually delineating what the differences are. So a mentor essentially is someone that you're learning from. So when you're in a mentorship, you're learning from other people's experiences. You're learning something where it's going to be a very specific thing that is helping you with moving your career forward, right? They help with you recognizing the doors that are there for you to open. They help you with actually identifying what your gaps are, where your strengths are, how you're going to build a pathway. These are the types of conversations that you have in your mentorship conversation. where your sponsorship is your sponsor through sponsorship is actually the person who's providing opportunities through relationships. In other words, these are the people who cheerlead, talk about you, promote you, put your name in the ring. They are your cheerleaders when you are not there, right? Whether you're there or not, they're like, you know who will be great for this project? It will be Tanya, right? Like that's what you want to do, right? So like that is a really important piece of your network. And those two working in tandem together is really, really powerful. And they can be filled right in LinkedIn. I think a common myth is that you have to already have an established relationship with someone you bring on as a mentor or sponsor. False. You can bring on somebody who you're like, this makes sense for my career trajectory to have this person as a part of my career tribe. So if they're a part of it, then you're engaging them and you're building that relationship so that you can learn from them, so that they can advocate for you. Right. So using LinkedIn to do that is something that's really, really important to do. And then lastly, expanding your network is going to allow you to do some competency development. And that can be from formal learning opportunities. You see it all the time on LinkedIn. Every single day I see something, whether it's workshops like this is a learning opportunity, whether it is conferences, it's different speaks, audio events, podcast, whatever it is, there's always like a whole plethora. And don't even get me started on LinkedIn Learning. Now that one I will kind of commercial for, because LinkedIn Learning is pretty awesome. Again, not getting paid for any endorsements, but if it's there, it's there, right? Use it, because it's a way for you to invest in yourself. Or if you're in an organization that invests in LinkedIn Learning and you're not using it, you really are missing out. So engage in it. These tools are really great. They're out there. Make sure that you do something with them. All right. So that's all about expanding your network. I'm going to actually take a question that I see in the comments right now. And that question is, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up as well so that everyone can see it. It says, if you have no prior experience in the market, you want to penetrate, how best can you buff up your profile so as to get the attention of recruiters? That is such a great question. So if you don't have experience that's in a particular market, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start making connections with people who are within it, right? Because that's what it is. And this person, these people become mentors, because what you want to do is you want to find out two things. One, what knowledge, skill, and ability do you need to have in order to actually penetrate that market, right? And then two, which ones do you have and which ones do you not have? And that's essentially doing your career competency mapping, right? That's your gap analysis of like, here's where I'm at right now. Here's where I want to be. Let me connect with people who are there, who can tell me what I actually need, and possibly, and let's click up to the sponsor, open the doors for me to get that knowledge, skill, or experience. So that's one really good way. That's why I think that LinkedIn is such an excellent tool, because you can look people up. And I'm actually going to show you something really cool. We're going to jump out of this presentation in just a second. I'm going to show you a really cool way to actually do that. That's very effective and can help you probably even take strides in an area you would not even think that you could take strides in until you actually do this activity of bringing people in that area into basically your career tribe. So let's do that now, right? And I hope that was helpful in terms of answering that question. That's one strategy, but I want to keep the strategy in terms of what we're talking about today, which is using LinkedIn to do that. All right. So I'm going to actually jump into LinkedIn now to go into this next part. And essentially, it's funny because I built out an entire screenshot version of what we're about to do in order, just in case I couldn't get onto LinkedIn Live. All right, so here's what we're going to do. One of the best ways to really focus on expanding your network is to do what I call a second level network expansion. Yeah, that's a whole long word for what I'm about to talk about, and I just really just made that up. But essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to click up here where it says My Network, right? And then you're going to go over here. And again, I do this all the time with clients, and they actually don't realize that you can do this. So again, I just want to, again, put this out as a service so that people understand how to actually use this really effectively. So as you see, I have about 1,900. So I'm coming up close to almost 2,000 connections. Different from followers, right? It's a different number for followers. These are people who I am first level connected to. And I want to say something about that, because when you have your connections, and I'm actually going to go over here because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to search with filters. And this is going to be a recorded presentation, so you can always come back to this and look at these steps. But essentially, you're going to go to the search with filter page, right? And this is like that cool thing that you have like on Amazon. Like, I'm really big on searching for stuff on Amazon and filtering things out and getting it down to what I need. It's actually the same exact thing. You're going to take the same exact stance when you come here. So essentially, when you get to this part, you are looking here, and these are all your first line connections. You know that by here it says first, right? This everyone you have directly connected to, whether you've reached out to them or if they've reached out to you. And we're going to do a second line connection. So we're going to uncheck first. We're going to check second. And what's going to happen is we are going to see every person that is connected to every person we are connected to. That makes them second level. Now, remember, I had 1,900 connections, right? So we're going to hit show results, and you're about to see what happens. Let's give it a second. Okay, look at the results. Yes, this is crazy, but this is what you want to see. And that's from 1,900 connections, right? You're going to see a lot. Even if you have 100 connections, you're going to see a couple of thousand, right? Because it's everyone that your connections are connected to. But that is overwhelming. That is quite a lot and is not very helpful. You are not going to go through, this is almost 2 million results. Like, we're not doing that, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to get strategic. So I'm going to first focus on those who may be watching this and may be looking for work right now. A really great way to focus what you are doing, especially when you say, okay, I'm looking for work, is you're going to filter by this very first tag, and it says actively hiring. So I'm going to click that. And now we're going to get 15,000 results. So for all of you out there who are like, yeah, I'm looking for a job and it's taking me a long time and everything, like, yes, job searching is hard. Yes, job searching usually is somewhere between 2 to 4 month process. Yes, it is. But I want to help you get more strategic about the way that you do this. And this is a great way to do this. So these are people already connected to people you're connected to. What are the chances that they are going to have a lot in common and be in the same industry and the same market that you're in? It's really, really high, right? As you can see, I'm an HR professional, and look at all these are 15,000. I'm not connected to any of them, but they all have some kind of human resources inside of it, because I'm an HR professional, and most of the people that are inside of my network right now have something to do with HR, learning and development, culture, DE&I. Like, they're all in that atmosphere, right? So that's what you want to penetrate. You want to penetrate that group, right? And if you're looking for work, this is a great way to also just start expanding your network very strategically in the area you want to be in. But say you're like, okay, yes, the HR people are coming up first, but I'm sure there's not 15,000 that's just HR. So you want to click on this all filters. I'm just going to kind of skip the other ones that are on top and go over to the side, because I want you to see all of the filters as we go through this. So you can go through and you can start to filter even further, because 15,000 is a lot. So let's say I want to filter and I'm not really willing to relocate or anything like that. So I'm going to narrow this down and say I'm going to go with, those that are just in the New York City metropolitan area. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click results just so I can see what that gives me. Okay, so that still gives me 1,200 results. Still a lot to choose from, right? But still quite overwhelming, right? But do you see what I'm doing now? I'm starting to filter down and I'm starting to get really, really specific. This is an area. And if say I'm like, you know what, I'm really interested in working for a specific company, right? And the company's not on here. I can put in a company on here and add that. So you can also do that when you know the type of companies you want to work for or know the company itself, right? Or you can do it by past company, which is kind of cool because that means they don't have to necessarily work there now. So that gives you more options. You can go by the school that they went in, but I'm going to go down to industry because I think this one is the coolest one in terms of even the question that we had earlier about getting into a market that you want to penetrate. A great way to do that is to then add in an industry here. Now, this is just defaulting. So these are just some ones that they randomly put on here. But you can go in and you can get really specific about like, where do you want to be? Right. So say you already are an HR professional and you're like, I really want to connect with people who have business consulting services as well, because I want to go into consulting. I want to come out of corporate, go to consulting. Right. So let's see what results that gives us. So we're going to go from 1,200 and now we're at 135. That's far more manageable, right? And maybe it's that I don't even want to do that right now. Maybe it's something that I want to do in the future and I'm just really looking for a mentor. I can even unclick the actively hiring because remember, I started this by people who are looking for a job. So that's the only reason why I left that on there. But even if I unchecked actively hiring, I'm now back up to 12,000 results, right? I'm going to leave it there and play around with a couple more filters. So a few more filters that you can put in here as we keep scrolling down. Again, we go past industry. We can go into profile language, open to some pro bono consulting or joining a nonprofit. The other one I really, really like is this service category, because the service category, again, gets more specific from not just the industry, but it gets really specifically of what's inside of that industry now. Right. So I can say, okay, now I really want to focus on coaching and mentoring. That's my space. Right. So if that's my space, now I'm going to hit show results on that. And now I'm down to 878. So as you see, you can just keep playing around with this until you have kind of that list where you're like, all right, now I'm ready to start looking at some stuff. Like, and again, if I want to go back into that actively hiring, I've got that second filter. Look how this is like really narrowed it down, right? This is like business consulting. This is HR. This is now in the space of coaching and mentoring. Right? I'm just getting further and further, and these are all now open and hiring. So how powerful is it now if you say, okay, here's my list of people that I'm going to follow or I'm going to connect with because they're very closely aligned to what I want to do. And so if that is the case, now I've got a list of 17 that I didn't have before. Even if this list went down to 6, it still was worth going through this process to do this. So this is how you can use. That's the power in using this. And at any time, you can start taking some of these away. Say, I really don't want to do coaching and mentoring. So let me come out of that. And I really don't care about it being in the New York City area because I'm willing to relocate, right? And you can go back up and you could just keep playing around with this as long as you need, right? So say we're not looking for a job. Like that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to expand our connections. And this is a great way to do it because what will most happen, like 99% of the time, as soon as you hit that second, the people that come up first are more than most likely going to be people you know. You're like, oh, I know them. I'm not connected to them. I should probably connect with them, right? What I usually do is I also look at a second thing on here I want to point out. So see how it says. So Yanni Lieber, I actually worked with Yanni at an organization a couple of years back. So I'm not surprised that he's the second connection. We didn't work directly together, but kind of sort of knew him. But here's the important part. We have these 2 plus 41, so 43 mutual connections, right? There's a high probability that if I sent him a connection request right now, more than most likely they're going to accept it, right? But for the purposes of this, I'm not going to completely send it, but I definitely want to make sure that we take a pause here, because when you hit connect, the next thing that comes up is it says, do you want to add a note to your invitation? Now, let me come on screen real quick, because I just want to make sure that I say this directly to the audience out there. To my knowledge, there is not data that exists that says there is a higher chance that someone will accept your connection request if you add a note. LinkedIn has not published data to that effect. No one else has published data. There's lots of opinions. You will find tons of it if you just do a quick search. If you even do a deep search, you will find tons of things, and people are on both sides of the fence. Yes, you should add a note. No, you should add a note. You shouldn't add a note because nobody wants to read it. If they know you, they know you. If they don't, they don't. If you look interesting, they'll read your headline. But there's a lot of arguments for and against, right? So I will take a stance. I think you always should do a note. And it's 2 reasons. If you are expanding your network and you really are trying to actually get into a new industry or something, there's something that person represents that will be a value add to them, or you are a value, or you are a value add to them, or they're a value add to you. If that is the case, then say that in a note. Absolutely. Add a note and say, hey, we have a lot of connections. We did work together in the same space at this point, but we didn't get to know each other. I would love to connect with you to just pick your brain on some things about making a career change, or about just advancing my career, or just understanding the industry deeper, or just building business acumen in the space. Whatever it is, be specific. So that's what I will say about notes. Be specific about what you put into that note, right? Or at least give you something like something that gives you a baseline that says something like, I'm, working on my career development. I'm looking to expand my network. I would love for you to be a part of it. Looking forward to connecting. Be respectful, be polite. More than most likely, people will accept your invitation, right? I will go from a personal perspective. When people send me requests, I go through 2 things. One, I immediately see, did they send me a note? Why are they trying to connect with me? All right. If they didn't, I don't totally X them out. I will go to their profile. And if you join the LinkedIn Part 1 session, I say this in that Part 1 session, so I'm going to say it here. I will go to your profile and I will look in 3 areas. I'm going to look at your headline. And if your headline does not tell me more than what your title is, your current title is, I'm probably not going to accept your requests. I need to know a little bit more about you, and I need to want to be curious enough to read more about you, right? That's just me. That's where I start. You got to have a process, especially when you have so many coming in. All right. The second thing is I go down and I actually I take a very quick glance at their about, just to tell me, are you going to give me something? You didn't give it to me in your headline. Let me look at it, your about. Maybe you gave it to me there. All right. I actually skip the experience, the skills and everything, and I scroll all the way down and I look for recommendations. Why? Because just like I shop on Amazon and I look for reviews and to make a selection on what I'm going to choose, it's the same exact things. Your recommendations are reviews. It's the only way that I actually know that you're a person, because I'll tell you the first thing that I won't do. If you don't have a picture on your profile, I think you're in witness protection, and that's a red flag. I will not accept your invitation. So there's that. But also, if no one is talking about you, are you real? Right. So recommendations are really important. And in that LinkedIn Part 1 session, I go into that deeply, and I consult my clients on this. It is so important to have recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. So that's just me. That's if you don't give me a note. If you give me a note and there's a reason why, or you say, Latrice, I was in this session with you and I would love to connect, I'm going to accept it 100% of the time, especially if you tell me how I met you. I will definitely accept that. Or if you say, I watched one of the videos, your videos, or I was on your website and I really like to engage you for XYZ reason, like that's what I'm looking for. So I find notes to be important, but use your discretion in doing that. If you are job searching, always include a note. Say, like to introduce myself, because here's a thing about that. I feel like one of the most underutilized strategies for looking for a job is to look at people working at the organization you're applying to and then reach out to them. What's it like working there? Do you know anything about this role? Who's a good person to talk to about this role? I would love to just do an informational interview just to learn more about your company, right? Making connections doesn't mean you have to be besties and talk to each other every single day. Making connections, it can be very simple and about really reaching out, starting a dialogue, and just creating a connection. I've made some of the greatest connections on LinkedIn of just people who reach out and just start a conversation with me, right? Not trying to send me, some marketing or get me to do something or buy something or engage with them. It's really just the people who really just start a conversation with me. That's the most engaging. And I've helped so many people get jobs that way because I'm like, oh, I remember this person reached out to me and they were a fantastic project manager. I had a great conversation and they're looking, I should connect them. That's how it works. Because at the end of the day, everyone, networking and careers, I click something, networking and relationships are still king when it comes down to getting a job. 76% of jobs are obtained through relationships. It will forever and always be king. It does not matter how digital or remote our world gets. Relationships matter, even if those relationships are virtual. So use this, right? This is what you want to use. This is what you want to do in order for you to build some effective relationships. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into our presentation really quickly. And what we're going to do now is talk about 3 things that I feel personally are really important in terms of how you engage inside of LinkedIn, particularly for your career development, your career management, your career growth, right? So number 1, what you can do that's more important than everything else, I feel, is to do 2 things that's a two-way street: provide value and then also seek help when you need it. All right. Again, networking, it's a two-way street. So just as much as you're asking for help, you also should be out offering assistance and advice or resources so that to your connections whenever possible. Now, I have this second part on here, to your connections, for a reason, because a lot of the times I talk to clients who are very highly interactive on all of these social media platforms, and they're giving this advice and resources and to literally everyone, right? Which is okay. But at the same time, when you are doing it very specifically for your connections, right? And you are saying, okay, this is specifically for this group of people. And a lot of the times, a really great way of doing that is to join different groups, right, that appeal and are aligned to what you do and what you talk about. When you do that, then it becomes even more personal and you increase the engagement that you have. And when I say engagement, I'm not talking about the people who like and follow. I'm talking about the people who go further, who go and they contact you, who go to your website, or who engage you for more information one-on-one in your DMs. It's that. And if you're a business owner or a consultant or someone who also is looking to establish their presence, then it's the people that go even further in engaging with you, right? Engage your services, take a part of your campaigns, do those things, right? So it all of those things all wrapped together are a part of you offering out your resources to your connections. Again, providing value builds goodwill, and it strengthens those relationships. Every time there's something you put out that someone feels of value, then that relationship gets deeper, even if you're not talking directly to them, right? You're still building your external persona. And then lastly, the other side of that, do not hesitate to seek help or advice from your network when needed. It's a really great, I love the polls feature out there, right? And when you're struggling with something, I did this a while back. This is a real case scenario here, or case study here. I essentially was looking, and I was actually talking to a colleague about this earlier today. I was looking for a way to scale my coaching services, and I put out a poll, and essentially I asked a question that was somewhat in the form of, what is the best way to engage one-on-one coaching in a highly effective manner? And I think I did something around timing or duration. Long story short, it was so insightful to learn from everyone, and I got some very interesting answers, and I ended up landing on something that really is a core foundation of my business. No matter what, there's a certain dollar amount I'm going to hit every single month. And the reason why I know I'm going to hit it every single month is because even if I just get the bare minimum of people engaging in my one-on-one coaching services, I'm going to hit my bottom of where I want to be financially, and do it in a way that is not a super drain on my energy and time. And I learned that through a poll that I put up on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of power that you can get from that. And when I say asking for help, it can come in a lot of different formats, right? So I did a poll and actually asked for something very specific, but asking for informational interviews, say 15 minutes, and put together a 3-question interview for them and ask multiple people things, especially like back to that, how do you penetrate a market that you don't have experience in? Do informational interviews, right? And just do maybe like 15 minutes, 3 questions, and do 3, 4 once a week. Like it can be something as simple as that, and get your insights, right? Seeking feedback on your CV or resume or your profile is a great way. Just asking, hey, somebody take a look at my profile and give me your thoughts, right? LinkedIn has some tools for that as well, by the way. So like click around LinkedIn, because you'll get some work on that. If you go into the job section and on the left-hand navigation, you'll find some tools that will help you with that. And then lastly, asking for some introductions, right? Again, that's the power of what LinkedIn provides, is that it's people who work in these organizations who's connected to different people. You don't have to know the person. You need to just know a person, right? So ask for the introduction to the person if you need. So if you reach out respectfully and professionally, it's going to often lead to some really valuable connections and opportunities that you may not even realize are there. All right. Number 2, you want to engage consistently with your network. So regularly sharing content such as industry news, articles, insights. Those are ways, especially for the introvert, to be able to engage. And a lot of the times LinkedIn will even prompt you and say, hey, here's some articles that you may want to share based on your knowledge and skills, right? So take advantage of those things. If you don't have that turned on, go into your settings and turn that on so that it can give you suggestions. And they'll send you news and articles and insights, right? Or if you read something, share it, right? You don't have to come up with your own thoughts and experiences, but that is also something you can share, your own thoughts and experiences about things, right? comment and like posts from your network just so you can stay visible and build relationships. I love the when I see the commenting for reach. I love that. It's so cool, and it's just such a cool concept. And it's three little words that are actually really, really powerful. And people really appreciate that as well. And I've commented and say, commented for reach. And then somebody will come back and be like, oh, you know what? That's really great. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to have this conversation with you, that type of thing. So I've had things come out of that as well. So lots of value in that as well. And another way you can do that is, again, just engaging with other people's content by just offering meaningful contributions or asking insightful questions or sharing relevant resources. A lot of the times, again, you do not have to be the thought leader. I share this really cool video in one of my leadership sessions called The Second Follower. And essentially, it's the concept of like you'll notice that as soon as there's more than 2 comments on a post, if they're very insightful and engaging, it will cause almost an avalanche of other comments. Right? As soon as you get that second really insightful, engaging comment. So think about that when you are engaging in other people's content. Be thoughtful about the way that you're engaging. And it doesn't always have to be insightful. It can insightful in terms of the comment. It can be insightful in terms of the question, right? Or in terms of what other things you're sharing to also further whatever that topic is. So that's another way to do that, right? Consistent engagement is going to help you stay on just top of mind and, again, foster those deeper connections. Because remember, that's what this was all about. This was all about fostering the connections and using your network to really actually improve what your career trajectory is looking like, right? It's a part of your career development plan. Lastly, and I've said this throughout this whole entire session, utilize the LinkedIn features. They're there. Just take advantage of the features because there are so many different things that you can be doing. The open to work. I'm always astounded by people who are open to work but don't have open to work on their actual profile. Use it. Right? If you're actively seeking opportunities, use that open to work. Add it to your profile. Right? You also want to do things like messaging, right? Messaging to initiate conversations with your connections, and sending personalized messages like we talked about earlier, to recruiters and professionals that you're interested in can, again, immediately establish a relationship that you couldn't even have before, right? So use that. It's there. There's no reason not to use it. And lastly, the job search and company research tools in LinkedIn are invaluable, right? Explore career opportunities and then gather insights about the potential employers. One of my favorite strategies that I help my clients through is whenever you're looking at a job and you say, oh, that's a really interesting role. There's a really cool thing that happens when you're looking at the role, whether you have premium or not. You can go in and it'll say things like, here are some companies that are like this company, or here's some companies. I think premium will show you like here's some places that people who work here were hired from, which means it's probably companies that are similar in industry, maybe even similar in their mission and vision and values, things like that. And it may be companies you never heard of, right? So use those things. Like, it gives you so much information and will help you with just expanding what you know about the organizations that you're looking into. And again, that's something that you don't always get. So again, use the tools. They're there for you. There's no reason to not use them. Okay, so what is next after this session? Like I said, if you missed part 1, that was all about your profile. Basically, what I do is I walk you through from the headline, and I made a comment about headlines, good headlines earlier, but I walk you through that. Like, what does that mean? What does a good headline actually mean, and why is that important? Right? I do go from there to the about, to even activities, features, experience, like how to put the whole entire entire LinkedIn profile together. And as a bonus, you actually get my tip sheet for that at the end of that session. And in fact, in this session, if you send me a DM and say, hey, I was in your session, I will send you that tip sheet just as a bonus, right? The other thing is that you could do after this is you can engage with me for one-on-one career coaching. I offer 3 levels of coaching. They differ in the duration of each one of the sessions, and then the length of service. I have 2-month, 3-month, and 4-month packages as a core. If you're interested in anything above that, like an executive coaching, or you work for an organization and you want to bring in executive coaching into your organization, you can contact me for that as well. When you contact me for these core 2, 3, 4-month packages, that includes unlimited coaching calls, texts, and emails. Okay, that might sound crazy and scary to some people out there. Like, wait, what do you mean unlimited coaching calls, texts, and emails? It's not as crazy as you think. And when I mentioned earlier about the poll of how to do this is one of the things that I learned. And yes, I offer truly unlimited coaching calls, texts, and emails for whatever duration that you actually buy. So if you're interested in that and you want to learn more and understand what that is, because it is a huge value add, just contact me, reach out to me, and we can talk about one-on-one career coaching. As an output of the career coaching, we work very specifically on your LinkedIn profile and make sure that it's working for you in the way that you need it to work, right? If you want to engage me for your team, couple of ways. Again, the executive coaching is one. I don't have that on here, but the executive coaching is one thing that you can offer for your team or your organization. Okay, whether you're a team leader or you are over an organization or a large department, executive coaching, aligning that into your manager training, your leadership development programs, all of that. Book a discovery call with me. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. One of the things that's a really cool thing that I do with some of my clients is I help them with using LinkedIn as a development tool for their team to help them expand their industry knowledge and then bring new expertise into the team, especially when they're faced with challenges that they're really struggling with overcoming and need some new insight or some thoughts or some ways to just propel them into broader thinking. Right. So it's a great way to do that. And we can definitely help you activate this approach. So you can visit our Calendly. Just go to calendly.com and then /LeaderKeys. And you'll see all of our offerings for you to book time with us. There's discovery calls that are actually absolutely free. The career coaching call is actually free to start that. So you can actually book a free session. You can just actually book a discovery call as well. And we can talk about what's going to work for you, what works best for you. If you mention this session, this LinkedIn session, or even on Facebook or YouTube, and you tag LeaderKeys in your post, you will receive a 20% discount on any future service or event. So that's another just like a little perk for being here today. And we just appreciate all of you for taking the time. So with that, we have 7 minutes left in this presentation. I'm going to open up the floor to questions and comments and anything that you guys want to discuss. So if you have any questions, please be sure to put them into the comments and I will be happy to answer them. And there's a couple that are coming in. So I'm going to give that a few minutes because I think they're actually coming in as I'm looking at them. But I hope you found that this was a good and insightful session. The session I get asked all the time, will it be recorded? It's here on LinkedIn Live. So you can actually replay it right here on LinkedIn. You can also replay it on Facebook if you're joining us from Facebook, or if you're not following us on Facebook, make sure you go follow us. We are actually on Facebook, LeaderKeys. Very easy to find, all one word. We're also on Instagram, also as just LeaderKeys. And then we have a YouTube page, and the YouTube will have all of our videos. So if you ever miss any video at all, or any session, any event, any of our posts that have video content on it, anything, it is all held on our YouTube page. So you can also catch up for anything right there. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Also, it is just /LeaderKeys. So we try to make everything pretty easy to find. But you can follow us on any of our socials and we'll be happy to engage with you. All right. So a couple of these questions are actually overlapping questions, but one of the questions in here actually has to do with the filtering that I did. So essentially the question is around filtering by tenure, I think is actually what you're trying to say. So essentially what you can do is you can filter by the previous companies. And what's going to happen is that it's going to rank order the people when it comes up to you by basically by their tenure, right? How long they've been at that company. So it kind of automatically does, the AI does that on the end, but there isn't a specific way to actually do that. You can't actually, it's not one of the filtering components. But it'd be great to actually add that as a filtering component. So I am also a big advocate of sending LinkedIn suggestions and going, hey, can you add this? Or have you guys thought about this? And so I do tend to do that a lot. So I do like questions like that because, and I will definitely send that one over because I think that one might be a good one, right? It's like industry experience, time. Yeah, that would be really good. So that would be a great way to like kind of understand who is more of your entry level versus mid-career versus late career in the industry that you're looking for. Yeah, I don't see any reason not to do that. I guess you can, I guess someone would argue to say that would be tied to the job title and the level. But I've seen some really strange stuff out in these streets. So I've seen people with, 2 years of experience with VP titles and, but it's just because job architecture is so different across organizations. So yeah. Yes, I have. So someone is asking about my HR experience. So I've been I've been in human resources for pretty much my entire career. If you know anything about human resources, you know that it is multi-layered and lots of different dimensions to it. I should actually add in here that one of the services that LeaderKeys actually provides is around leveling up your HR. So with every single event or session or topic that we talk about, I also offer that from a very specific human resources lens. And what I do is I go into organizations and I actually train your HR department on how to position different things within the organization. I do a lot of consulting specifically inside of the career development space. So my HR career started more on a transactional side. I did things inside of like recruiting and benefits and compensation, all those different areas. That SHRM SCP, for any of you guys who don't know, that is the Society of Human Resources Management - Senior Certified Professional. There's a whole lot of alphabet in that, but that's what that is. And essentially, I moved from the transactional side and into more of the transformational side when I went into the talent management, talent development space. And within those spaces, I spent a lot of time in terms of really understanding people analytics and adult learning principles and theory. I did a lot of curriculum design. So my knowledge spans across the career development as well as career management spaces. And the difference in that is, again, the development are exactly all of it. That's your learning and development, your training, all of those things. Where career management are all of the things in terms of your performance management. So goal setting and things like that. And your even, succession planning and high potential and all of those different types of programs. I also have experience in those areas as well. So I bring in a lens from all areas of HR that I think is very valuable in terms of being able to come in and help level up your human resources department. Okay, so we are at our time. So I just want to end up here with, it will be really amazing to connect with all of you who are out there. If you really are ready to become an authentic and unapologetic leader, then it's time for you to get in touch with our team today. So we can be reached on Calendly by going in and scheduling a call with us, and we can just chat and see how we can partner. You can visit our website and you can see all of our resources there. I'm going to leave our QR code up there, and then I'm going to sign off by wishing you all the best. Go out, be awesome leaders. And if you think you can be awesomer, we can help you get there. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and we will see you next time.